A very good morning to all of you. Today we are going to learn a little bit about democracy and why democracy is the best form of government in today's world. Before we go into this, I'd like to ask you all, did you see the 2019 elections? What happened? People campaigned, they presented their report card in front of the public. You could hear them and see them on the television, read about them in the newspapers. They tried to woo the voters and to encourage them to vote for them. When the election day finally dawned, your parents, your elders, and all those who could vote went and cast their vote, and after that the counting was done and the party with the maximum number of votes won the elections and formed the government. Did booth capturing, intimidation, money power, muscle power, and all these corrupt practices actually take place during these elections? Very little. But this is not the case everywhere. In Mexico, for example, where the PRI party has been in power or was in power for 71 years, this is not the case. There, all the school teachers and the government employees are intimidated and are forced to vote for the PRI. Elections are conducted, but at the last minute, the polling booth is changed and people find it very hard to go and cast their vote. Is there any opposition? Yes, but the opposition is silenced. They are intimidated. They are not allowed to express their views or their opinions or to criticize the policies and the decisions of the government. Another place which this does take place is our neighbor Pakistan. Now, what happens in Pakistan? In the last elections, Imran Khan became the elected Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he was elected by the people. Does he have the right to take decisions for the betterment of the country? No. Who takes the decisions? The military. And how did this start? It started during the time of Pervez Musharraf. General Pervez Musharraf came to power in 2002, where he amended the constitution whereby he got the sole authority to dismiss the national and the provincial assemblies. Pervez Musharraf even came to India during the time of Vajpayee, and then started the Samjhauta Express, and we thought finally the relationship between India and Pakistan would improve, but did they? No. What happened? The Kargil War. Another country which does have elections is China. Elections are held regularly. Do the people have the choice to cast their vote for whichever candidate they want? No. Does anybody have the right to stand for election? No. The candidate has to be approved by the Communist Party. Elections are held, people do go and vote, but finally it is the Communist Party which comes to power. Do the people have freedom of speech to criticize the policies and the decisions of the party? No. All those who dare to criticize are silenced. Now let me tell you something about Russia during the time of Stalin. Stalin ruled Russia with an iron fist. Anybody who dared to oppose him or to criticize him or to voice their opinion against him was totally silenced and sent to Siberia. There's a prison over there called the Gulag, and that was the end. People had no freedom. They had no right to express their views. In fact, even in their own homes, people were afraid to speak because they never knew whether their own son, daughter, mother, father, who is going to speak against them, who is going to inform the police about them. So there was no freedom. Now let me tell you about another country. I don't know how many of you have read about Uganda. There was a dictator, his name was Idi Amin. And during that time, there was absolute chaos in Uganda. People had to leave their homes, their families, everybody behind. Idi Amin ruled Uganda with an iron fist. He was a total dictator. You have all read about Hitler. What happened in Germany? Was that the end of genocide in world history? No. Hitler, you know, carried out ethnic cleansing. All the Jews, the gypsies, the minorities, the physically disabled were all sent to concentration camps and exterminated. There was huge outcry all over the world. But was this the last? Did this never happen again? It did. It happened twice after that. Once in Kosovo and once it happened during the time of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. What did Saddam Hussein do in Iraq? I don't know why. He did not like the ethnic Kurds. So these people lived in northern northern Iraq. And what did the people do? What did the army do? They literally sprayed poisonous gases over all the areas occupied by the Kurds. And there was mass killing, mass extermination of the Kurds. And what happened in Kosovo? Mislovic, who was the leader, wanted all the Albanians to either become a part of the Serbian society or to leave Kosovo. And then he and his people carried out mass ethnic cleansing, and the crimes they committed against the Albanians were heinous. There was mass genocide of the ethnic Albanians. After hearing about all this, don't you think that democracy is definitely a better form of government? Let us take the two biggest democracies of this world, America and India. The people have the right to vote. They have the right to elect their own representatives. These representatives have the full freedom of making rules and regulations for the betterment of the country. These representatives stand for the people. Their decisions can be questioned. They do make mistakes, but there is room for correction. What are the factors not in favor of democracy? Now, in a democracy, these elected representatives have a fixed tenure of time. People are allowed to voice their opinion through the newspaper, through the media, by taking out marches, strikes. They can make the government hear. The government has to reconsider the decision if it is not in favor of the people. But against democracy, what are the points? That it does not provide a stable form of government. An elected representative, you do not know whether he will be voted to power in the next elections. The people also, if muscle power and money, or as you see in India, caste, creed, politics, people can be convinced to vote for any candidate, whether he can or he cannot do the job. So, all said and done, let us look at some of the factors which are in favor of democracy. A democratic form of government is an accountable form of government. It improves the decision-making quality. It improves the methods to deal with differences and conflicts. It enhances the dignity of the citizen. It allows room for the correction of mistakes. In a democracy, it is a consultative form of government, and the consent of the people is also needed. It applies to all spheres, whether it be an organization or the government, and decisions are taken by popular consent. Why isn't democracy a better form of government? Leaders keep changing, and this leads to instability. Democracy is all about political competition, so there is no scope for morality. There are endless delays in decision making because it's a consultative form of government. You take the opinions of all those who are experts in the field, so naturally there are delays in decision making. Elected leaders may not know what is the best interest of the people, so this can lead to bad decisions, and it also gives rise to corruption. Let me read to you something written by a Peruvian writer, Mario Vargas Llosa, who famously described Mexico under the PRI regime as being a perfect dictatorship, stating, "I don't believe that there has been in Latin America any case of a system of dictatorship which has so effectively recruited the intellectual milieu, bribing it with great subtlety. The perfect dictatorship is not communism, nor the USSR, nor Fidel Castro. The perfect dictatorship is Mexico, because it is a camouflage dictatorship." I have told you that the PRI was founded in 1928. It went through 3 subsequent name changes, and it was in power for 71 years. Now, all said and done, as Abraham Lincoln said, that democracy is the rule of the people, for the people, and by the people. And in a democracy, the dignity of the individual is definitely enhanced. There is equality. People are treated as citizens and not just subjects. They are responsible for their own action. When you elect a representative, if you have made the wrong choice, you have nobody but to blame but yourself. Now, all the people participate in the electoral process. In a democratically elected government, the government has to be accountable to the people, and it has to be responsive to the needs of the people. Elections have to be held regularly, and they have to be free and fair without restrictions. People can participate in the decision-making process. They have the liberty to protest or criticize the government. Elected representatives are elected for a fixed tenure of time. So, if an elected representative does not live up to the promises he or she has made, or a party does not prove that it can deliver the things written in the party manifesto, the people have all the right to outvote them in the next elections. So in a democracy, all the parties have to make sure that they work hard so that when they present their report card in front of the government, when they are campaigning, the people can say, yes, this party has lived up to its manifesto, it has done incredible work, it deserves to be voted back into power. I told you about Saudi Arabia, where the women got the right to vote as late as 2014. And in Estonia, where the citizenship rules are such that the people belonging to the Russian minority have difficult to get the right to vote. In Fiji, we learned that the vote of an ethnic Fiji has more value than that of an Indian Fiji. We have also learnt about Pakistan, how it is the military which controls the entire government. We also learnt about the dirty practices of the PRI in Mexico, how they resort to muscle power, money power, bribing. They threaten the people and they come to power and win elections. We have learnt about China, where the Communist Party gives no choice to the people. In Zimbabwe, we have not touched that as yet. In Zimbabwe, the ruling party is the ZANU-PF. Its leader, Robert Mugabe, though popular, is not the type of a leader who does not resort to unfair means to win elections. All the elections have been held regularly, but it is the same party, the ZANU-PF, which comes to power. Why? Is there nobody else who can stand for elections? No, that is not the case, because the opposition is silenced. The workers are harassed. If they have meetings, those meetings are disrupted. The public protests and demonstrations are totally illegal. They have been declared illegal by the government. The media is controlled by the government, and even if there are independent newspapers who dare to criticize the laws and the rules made by the government, they are totally silenced. Court judgments are ignored and judges are pressurized. So this government is definitely not a democratic government. In Syria also, the Ba'ath Party always forms the government. So, but that is not the case in India. Here you have seen, and even in America, that whichever party does the work, whichever party wins the confidence of the people, is the party which comes to power. So even though democracy is of the people, for the people and by the people, and since civilization evolved and people learned to voice their opinion, people thought that leaders should be elected who have insight, who have the confidence of the people, who can make decisions which sometimes may be tough for the welfare of the country, and thus civilization came upon the consensus that a democracy is definitely a better form of government. A democratic form of government is definitely a better form of government. In spite of all its lacunas and all the mistakes that our politicians make, and in spite of all the wrong people who are elected to power, at least in a democracy, you have the option of voting somebody else into power. You have the right to correct your mistakes. This does not happen in a non-democratic government. So all in all, we have learnt about the pros and cons of democracy. We have learnt about the non-democratic countries of the world, and I'm very sure that we will come to a consensus that all said and done, democracy is definitely a better form of government, in spite of all the different mistakes which we can make in a democracy. Thank you. I hope you understood this lesson.